It hasn't been too long since Sebastian Vettel formally announced his retirement, leaving F1 fans heartbroken, and while his replacement's on the way, there's a lot of unfinished business. Over 15 years of cutthroat competition, Vettel definitely made a few rivals along the way, and in this video we're going to talk about the four-time world champion's toughest rival and how he's finally opening up about his replacement in Formula 1. First off, with Vettel's retirement, he's speaking up. It turns out Sebastian Vettel finally gave his biggest rival a name when he pointed at Lewis Hamilton. That's right, folks. The seven-time champion just might be the biggest rival he's come across during his entire F1 career, and with that, the German is preparing to call time on a 15-year spell in the top rank of Formula 1. Now, during his time at Ferrari right between 2015 and 2020, we've seen Vettel enjoy plenty of battles with Mercedes driver Hamilton, and whether that's for pole positions or grabbing a victory, the pair was also involved in a scrap for the 2017 World title right until the final stages of that season. Having said that, the four-time champion from his early days at Red Bull, the 2022 campaign is going to mark Vettel's last as an F1 driver, because now, the 35-year-old is headed into retirement right after a challenging couple of seasons at Aston Martin. In a pretty reflective interview for the team's official website, he was asked the burning question who was the toughest of his many F1 rivals over the years. It turns out that Hamilton was definitely the one to watch out for, especially at Ferrari. And right before that, it was definitely Fernando Alonso when he was at Ferrari too. Not to mention Alonso's replacing Vettel. Maybe the rivalry was called for. It turns out that Alonso is going to be taking Vettel's seat at the Silverstone operation from the 2023 season onwards. And to that, the 53-time Grand Prix winner was asked if he had any advice to offer his replacement. In response, he said Fernando doesn't need any advice in the first place, and even if he did, he's probably not taking any either. Honestly, he's been around for the longest time and he's seen so much, so he should be fine on his own. Anyway, in fact, Vettel also pondered whether a better car would have kept him racing alongside Alonso and Hamilton for a bit more time than we expected. Talking about Vettel's two-season stint at Aston Martin, it's predominantly been restricted to some minor point finishes. At the most, we've also seen his second-place result right at the end of an incident-filled 2021 Azerbaijan Grand Prix. And did you ever think that maybe some more competitive machinery might have tempted him to extend his F1 career? Well, so have we. But when asked, Vettel said he just wasn't sure. In fact, he added, "Would I be retiring if I had been very competitive over the last 3 or 4 years, winning races, fighting for championships, maybe winning another one?" He might have same decided or not. Honestly, he agreed it was impossible to say, but it's definitely crossed his mind. Following up, F1 hasn't been as exciting for him anymore. You gotta admit, finishing 10th doesn't give a legend like him a buzz because you know how it feels to finish first. At least, that's what he said. Like, if you've never finished first, the very first time you're gonna finish 10th, you're gonna get a real buzz. As for now, the 35-year-old is pretty glad that he never gets a buzz from finishing 10th. In fact, it says a lot about him as an F1 driver. Adding to that, he expressed his love for the sport and racing that's never gonna end soon. His decision to finally retire wasn't an easy one for him or his fans, but it was definitely something that's been on his mind for a while now. Of course, the sport requires a lot of commitment, but the four-time world champion feels like it's a good time to do other things. The news of Vettel's retirement a few months ago sent the driver market silly season into overdrive. Honestly, his decision had caught Aston Martin a little off guard. Sure, they definitely knew there were a pretty strong chance that he wasn't going to keep racing, but they had told the four-time world champion they wanted him to stay on for the third year. In fact, they threw in everything they could to convince him to stay, but when he told the owner Lawrence Stroll that he was off, the billionaire accepted his decision, and from there, rumor has it, he went straight on the phone to Alonso. Coming up, here's why Aston Martin went after Alonso. While Lawrence Stroll rebranded Racing Point as Aston Martin, he wanted nothing less than a big name to headline the relaunch. Think about it. It was pretty important for the brand, and of course the prestige of the project, to have someone who was a proven talent. And he got the same spark in Vettel, one of the most successful drivers in F1 history. Now, while the strategy was nothing short of a success, his perseverance also had a pretty positive impact on the operation. In fact, It even brought in impressive commercial backing and further investment to strengthen the overall value of the business. Moving on with the same strategy, when Vettel handed in his notice, Alonso seemed like the only viable option, and Alpine's keen enough to keep the double world champion for another year, having brought him back into the sport for 2021. At the same time, Stroll didn't want to look like he was in control of the situation, with an empty seat just sitting there, so the billionaire swooped quickly and got a deal done within 5 days. As for Alonso, he wanted much more than a one-year deal with Alpine. In fact, he believed he deserved that after all the work he's put in over the past 2 years to help the Enstone team, Alpine wasn't exactly sure what to do. In fact, they wanted the one-year deal so they could draft their highly rated reserve, Oscar Piastri, into the car in 2024. Also, Max Verstappen still has a long way to go now. The F1 driver won the 2021 championship in the middle of controversies, especially after edging Hamilton at the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and with the age on his side, along with Red Bull showing absolutely no signs of slowing down, he might have enough time to target all-time joint record of 7 championships that Schumacher and Hamilton are. Ralf Schumacher came in and said despite Verstappen being 25, he might be premature to think about whether he can tackle the records of Hamilton and Michael. In fact, he said that's still a long way off. Now, don't get him wrong, he definitely appreciates the F1 driver's driving skills, like there's literally no doubt about that, but is this the only thing that matters? As we've seen in Formula 1 throughout the years, it also depends on a bunch of other factors that are simply out of the driver's control, and just think about it, beating the record of 6 world championships isn't a simple job, and even with luck on his side, there's a lot of talent on the F1 grid that working just as hard to grab the championship. On the other hand, what seemed to impress Ralph about him was that there have been a bunch of powerful drivers in the past who have also dominated together with their team. Yes, we're also hinting at Sergio Perez, but Verstappen definitely makes a difference in the team really impressively. Finally, Mick Schumacher and Haas might have a future. At the same time, Ralph also insisted that his nephew and Michael's son, Mick Schumacher, seemed to prove his worth at Haas. In fact, the F1 driver is battling for his place right now in the F1 2023 driver lineup because his contract with Haas is going to expire by the end of the season. Rumor has it he's been opening negotiations to stay, but the team has publicly shown interest in replacing him with Nico Hülkenberg. Now, rewind to the Japanese Grand Prix, and Mick was out of there as the leader, but when the rest of the field pitted for intermediate tires, he stayed out on wets, and, well, we all know how that decision backfired. He finished 17th. Commenting on this, Ralph said the questionable tactics of the team deprived Mick of a much better position. At the same time, we're not entirely sure how much budget's gonna be available next season and what the situation with the engine is gonna look like, but Ralph believes that both sides have a future and should take advantage of whatever they've worked so far for. Say what you want, but according to Ralph, the improvement was pretty clear from Mick's side. That's gonna be a wrap for this video though, my friends. What is your take on Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton's rivalry, and while we're at it, do you think Max Verstappen is going to beat Hamilton and Schumacher's shared record? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos just like this one. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.